Moments, you've been, as you mentioned, your career with the Fever. First six, though, were tough, obviously.
Yeah.
They weren't as
All right, so there's been this massive point bubbling up, and honestly, you guys have been spot on about it.
two. What's been the big turnaround? How have you viewed?
Okay, so the team's been growing in this really organic way, right? But here's the kicker: Kelsey Mitchell, after months of dodging and giving us those super polished, generic interviews, finally broke her silence. And get this, she wasn't just talking, she dropped an absolute truth bomb. For months, we've had media insiders spinning their own wild narratives. But the veteran heartbeat of the Indiana Fever just delivered the raw, unfiltered truth that fans have been desperate for. She didn't just answer a question, she said something so powerful, the entire WNBA is still trying to figure out what it all means. Seriously, every single word she spoke had weight. Every tone was deliberate. In that one moment, Mitchell reminded everyone that true leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room, it's about conviction. What she said wasn't just commentary, it was a statement that could completely change how we talk about Caitlin Clark, the Fever, and, frankly, the entire WNBA moving forward.
Then you bring in Caitlin, who changed the world, changed the dynamic of basketball. And as a friend and as a player, you grow to appreciate her because, certain doors have opened because she's come to the Fever, and you have to respect that. And I love the teammate and person in her because she's accepted it with so much grace and even welcomed us with open arms to, make this thing happen. So I think it just took a lot of big pieces.
Now, the real debate swirling around is this: was Mitchell simply expressing admiration, or was this the early hint of a professional rivalry bubbling up? Or, and this is what I'm leaning towards, was it something far, far bigger, like a brilliantly calculated, brutally honest, and refreshingly real teammate evaluation that just set a brand new standard for authenticity in pro sports? That's the question everyone is chewing on today. But hold up. Before we dive deep into the heart of her exact words, let's just pause and consider something even more massive for a second. Seriously, do you believe Caitlin Clark hasn't just transformed women's basketball, but completely shifted the global perception of the sport itself? Are we, right now, witnessing the single most important turning point in modern sports history? Is Caitlin the needle? You have to let us know what you think down in the comments below.
You've changed the world in so many ways. You've done it with so much grace. And I'm so happy to take the floor with you, to be a part of this experience. I want to tell you to give yourself some grace, kid. You've done a lot of things that not a lot of people can do. And from me to you, I'm always going to be a fan. I'm always going to be in your corner. I'm always going to be in your backcourt.
And honestly, that's the sheer magnitude of the question. Mitchell's comments have just slammed onto the table. And that, my friends, is exactly why the Fever star's voice carries so much weight. Because, let's be real, here's the plain truth: you mention the Indiana Fever anywhere, at any time, and you already know what's coming next, right? It's always the Clark question. It is as inevitable as the sunrise. It doesn't even matter if the player is talking about a defensive scheme, their favorite pregame meal, or even just the weather outside. Eventually, the conversation always turns. But what about Caitlin? It has become the unavoidable orbit of Indiana basketball. And this time, the player forced to answer wasn't just some role player. Oh no, it was Kelsey Mitchell.
But you've been with Indiana through the thick and thin. You've been with them since, we was talking, we about to go get our rhythm on Indiana. You've been there, you stuck through, and to now be in the semifinals. What does that feel like? And for people watching, girls, boys, if they athletes, not athletes, what does it feel like to stick through something and now see it come into full?
And trust me, that matters way more than most people even realize. See, Mitchell isn't just another name on the roster, she is, without a doubt, the franchise's survivor. For years, she was literally the lone flame flickering in the dark, dragging Indiana through seasons so bleak they were practically unwatchable. Think about this: this is the same Mitchell who somehow carried a roster that won just 5 games in an entire season. The same Mitchell who endured a revolving door of 5 coaches in 8 years. While opponents basically treated games against Indiana as a night off, a casual chance to pad their stats and rest their star players, she was the one who had to shoulder all the losses, deliver those polite cliches to the press, and somehow pretend there were building blocks after yet another soul-crushing 24-point blowout. That was her brutal reality. She wasn't just playing basketball, she was pushing a boulder uphill every single night, year after year.
2. What's been the big turnaround? How have you viewed the way the team has grown organically?
Oh man, I think a big shout out to the organization taking time to rebuild. I think our draft picks ended up coming big. Lexi Hall was a big draft pick, and then you get Kaylin, and then you get AB, and so you culminate that together with my experience and having to go through a couple things before they got there. I think it was just like a match made in heaven, really, because I was still at a young age to really vibe and get to know these players for who they were, and then you bring in Kaylin, who changed the world, changed the dynamic of basketball, and as a friend and as a player, you grow to appreciate her because certain doors have opened because she's come to the Fever, and you have to respect.
So, when she finally opens up and talks about Caitlin Clark, it's not just some empty lip service. This isn't a hollow, "Oh, she's great, she helps the team," type of soundbite we're also used to hearing. Mitchell is absolutely not in the business of rehearsed PR fluff. What she gave us was raw, authentic, and honestly sharpened by years of surviving in the league's absolute basement. And the result? She just validated what everyone can see with their own eyes, but few have dared to say out loud. Caitlin Clark hasn't just changed the Fever, she's completely transformed the entire basketball ecosystem. Mitchell's exact words hit like a tectonic plate shift. She literally said, and I quote, "Clark has changed the world, changed the dynamic of basketball itself." Now, let that just sink in for a second. That's not just a casual compliment, that's a seismic ignition from the one player who could have easily been bitter about the whole situation. The cornerstone of the Fever, the one who fought through irrelevance and pain, looked straight into that camera and essentially said, "Without Caitlin, none of this happens." The sellouts, the primetime games, the international coverage, all of it.